So we've taken a look at styles, but jQuery also gives us the ability to do some animations. How might we use some animations on this page? Well, maybe what we should do is make each of those vacations jump up a little bit when we select them. Let's figure out how to do that. So here we are back in our code, and maybe what we should do is have the li that was clicked move up 10 pixels. We've got -10, just like that. jQuery actually has a method called animate that we can send in CSS styles, and it will slowly animate from its current state to the style that we give it. So in this case, we would write animate top -10 pixels, and it will animate from 0 pixels to -10. Let's put that in our code. And now let's see what that looks like. So we click on it, and each of these items goes up. And, well, it doesn't go back down, they just go up. So obviously we're going to have to deal with that in a minute. When this event handler is called, we only want to make it animate up if we just added the highlighted class. However, if we just removed the highlighted class when we toggled, we want it to animate back down to 0. So we have an if statement here. If vacation class highlighted, then animate up, else animate the vacation back down. So let's go ahead and move that up into our code and have the second animate line there where we're animating it back down to 0. But we still need to figure out what goes inside of our if statement. We've got just some pseudocode there. Well, jQuery gives us a method called hasClass. We can check to see if a node has a specific class. So in this case, we'll call this.hasClass highlighted, and if it returns true, we know that it has the class. So let's move that back up into the if statement, and now if it has the class, it's going to animate that up, and if it doesn't, it's going to animate the li back down. So here we go in our browser. We click it once, it goes back up. We click it again, and it goes back down. Now this is a little bit slow. We might want to speed up or slow down the animation in certain circumstance. How might we do that? Well, we can specify the speed by adding a second argument. In this case, if we did comma 400, that means it's going to animate in 400 milliseconds, and this is actually the default. So if we don't specify a speed, by default the animation is going to take 400 milliseconds. We could send in the argument of fast, which would be the same thing as specifying 200 milliseconds. We could also specify the argument of slow, which in this case would be 600 milliseconds. And we can also use that speed argument in other methods like slide toggle, fade toggle, slide down, slide up. They all work. So let's speed up our animation, this time making it fast, just like you see here. Now when we go back into our browser, we can see the animation is definitely a little more snappy. Now once again, we have CSS inside of our JavaScript. And again, it might give you that not so fresh feeling. So how might we get this out of the JavaScript? It turns out we can do this animation in CSS by specifying a transition like you see here. So we're specifying here that if the top element is changed, it should transition in 0.2 seconds. Then when we add the highlighted class, we're specifying the top is -10 pixels, which will cause that animation to happen. You've got to be careful when using this, however, because it's only going to work with browsers that support CSS transitions. One way we can support additional browsers is by specifying the browser prefixes as you see here. Right? So this is something you have to be aware of if you want to use these types of CSS animations. And there's lots of information out there on the internet that will tell you which ones you can use, which ones are dangerous, and there might be a code school course or two on the subject. So here we are back in our browser, and as you can see, we can click and we still get that same nice animation effect. All right, you've reached the end of the videos, and now it's time for you to get into the challenges.